I know this is a little bit different, not the normal kind of content that I put out, but for those of you who do some sort of religious service on a Sunday, I wanted to share what I talked about at my church service, where I'm the lead of the chapel for Courthouse Bay. So we are going through the Gospel of Mark at chapel, and we're in Mark chapter 6, starting at verse 45. All right, Mark chapter 6, starting at verse 45. Immediately, Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to Bethsaida, while he dismissed the crowd. After leaving them, he went up on a mountainside to pray. When evening came, the boat was in the middle of the lake, and he was alone on land. He saw the disciples straining at the oars because the wind was against them. About the fourth night of the watch, he went out to them, walking on the lake. He was about to pass by them, but when they saw him walking on the lake, they thought he was a ghost. And they cried out because they all saw him and were terrified. Immediately he spoke to them and said, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." Then he climbed into the boat with them, and the wind died down. They were completely amazed, for they had not understood about the loaves. Their hearts were hardened. And there are a few things that I think that we can get from this brief lesson, and that is, number one, our fear sometimes causes us to freeze. And when we freeze because of the fear, we can't see clearly. The disciples in the boat, straining against the oars, had fear when they saw this figure walking on the water. They thought it was a ghost, so they flipped out, and in their fear, they couldn't even recognize Jesus coming by them. So as believers, we have to ask, is our fear causing us to freeze? Is our fear blinding us and preventing us from seeing what God is doing? And we have to work to recognize Jesus even in the middle of the storms of our life. Choose faith over fear. The second point I think we can learn from this short story is that Jesus has power over even nature itself. Now, in the Gospel of Mark, up to this point, we have seen Jesus fight with demons. He has cast out demons. He has healed sick people. And here we see that Jesus even has power over nature itself, which is really cool because in the very beginning of the Bible, in Genesis 1:1, we see that same power on display. Genesis 1:1 says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and void. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God spoke, 'Let there be light,' and there was light." You see, in the beginning, God is the one who has power over the cosmos. By his very voice, God creates everything out of nothing. And then we get to Mark chapter 6. Jesus is the one who has power over the universe, over nature itself. It's the same power that God demonstrated at the creation of the world. I think that's a pretty cool thing. And we have to recognize that Jesus has power over the storm. And over the storms in your life, and I don't know what you're going through, but if you're a human being, I guarantee you're going through something. It's just part of being human. We go through storms, we go through tough times, and it helps to recognize that Jesus has power over the wind and the waves. When you feel like you are drowning, Jesus has power. When you feel like life is just out of control and you don't know what's going on, Jesus has the power. And I love what Jesus tells them here as they are flipping out, right? They see him, they think he's a ghost, they don't understand. And he tells them, "Take courage." And then there's this great little sentence. In English, it says this, "It is I." But it's the same little phrase that could be translated as "I am," which, if you know the Bible at all, sounds pretty familiar, right? I am, because if you go back to the Old Testament again, Exodus chapter 3, there was this dude named Moses who had an encounter with God through a burning bush. I know it's kind of weird, but Moses is on a mountainside, he sees this bush, it's on fire, and he realizes that bush that's on fire isn't being consumed by the flames. It's pretty weird. So he goes over to check it out. And it's God there trying to get his attention. And Moses says, hey, what is going on? I'm paraphrasing here, right? God says, I want you to go back to Egypt and rescue the people who are in captivity. And then Moses asks this question, right? Suppose I say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you. And they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. Right? And that's where we get the name Yahweh from. God is the I am. He has no beginning. He has no end. God is. He is not created. He is the creator. God says, I am. That's what he tells Moses way back in the day. I am. So when Jesus comes along, Mark chapter 6, he says, take courage, I am. You see, he's connecting himself with the God who revealed himself to Moses back in the burning bush. And that's pretty cool. The God who rescued Israel from slavery way back then is here to take care of the things that keep us captive even today. Jesus has power over the storms in our lives. And the final thing that I think that we can take away from this is that there is a transformation that we go through our faith. And it requires understanding and discernment and finding who Jesus really is. Right? The disciples didn't understand what was happening with Jesus. In fact, Mark says at the end of this section, right, that they did not understand about the loaves. You see, previously, right before this story where Jesus walks on water, Jesus fed thousands of people with 5 loaves and 2 fish. And the disciples didn't understand what was happening in that miracle, that God provides miraculously, that people don't have to have fear and worry because God is the one who will provide. And they didn't understand that. They had to grow and progress in their own faith and understanding. And that's the same with us. We can grow and progress through our own faith and understanding, not only in who God is, but how God is holding on to us, even in the middle of the storms in our life. I don't know what storms you are going through, but I know that a lot of us are going through different storms. Some of us feel like we are struggling, like we are drowning, like the waves are about to capsize our boats. I understand that. That's normal. But I'm here to tell you that even through all of that, God has got you. And it may not feel that way. You may feel like you're lost and alone, but God has got you. Hold on to faith and trust in the one who created the universe, because he is there to hold on to you. I hope that you guys have a blessed week. And if there's anything that I can be doing for you or praying for you in any way, please feel free to reach out and let me know how I can encourage and bless you and pray for you guys. Have a great week. Bye.